If you're selling your home, there are things you absolutely should not do. These things could negatively affect your sale and mean less money in your pocket. But before we get into it, if you want to keep seeing videos just like this one, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, do not lie on your property disclosure. This can be tempting because, of course, you don't want to get your potential buyers spun up on past or current issues, but don't do it. Don't lie on your seller's disclosure and don't leave anything out. It's not worth the risk. I can actually speak to this personally from the buyer's side. When we bought our first home, the sellers failed to disclose a water intrusion. They made some really poor DIY repairs, and we discovered that the floor was rotting so badly that someone could have fallen through to the basement in a few years' time if we hadn't discovered it. I'll make a video of this story another time and post the link up here when I do. In short, we took the sellers to court and won. It was not a pretty day for them, and it was a complete nightmare for us as first-time buyers. The moral of the story is disclose, disclose, disclose. If in doubt, put it on there. Number 2, do not allow buyers to begin painting, moving their items in, or making repairs to your home before closing. Again, this is risky and it's just not worth it. The buyers will understand. I've seen way too many transactions blow up at the 11th hour, which is a complete nightmare for both buyers and sellers alike. But imagine how bad it would be if the buyer already had belongings in your home, or even worse, if the buyer had damaged your home. I actually had a deal fall through because the home sellers allowed my buyers to enter their home early to begin painting. And thank goodness they did. My buyers discovered a massive German roach infestation that was missed during inspection because the sheer amount of belongings that they had in the home. They had so many belongings, they were stacked in piles against the walls, along the walls, so you couldn't see the edges of any of the walls, and pretty much all of the rooms were like this. It was so bad that roaches were coming out of the electrical outlets, and you could see where pictures previously hung on the walls because there was a nice little roach poo outline. It was disgusting. Truly, thank goodness my buyers were allowed in there early because they probably would not have discovered this. And fortunately, my broker and I were able to get them out of the transaction and they got most of their earnest money deposit back. They just had to pay to repair the areas that they spackled and started painting. From the seller side of this though, if they had not allowed my buyers in there, we never would have found it and we would have closed. Yes, it probably would have turned into a headache for them down the road because I'm sure my buyers would have sued, but the home would have been closed upon. So let my buyer's nightmare be a lesson to you. Do not allow buyers to begin moving in, painting, or making repairs to your home before you close. Number 3, do not be misleading when you're sharing with buyers that you have newer appliances or a newer roof, HVAC, or other system. Yes, part of this is on your realtor to share honest and accurate information, but it's on you too. If you see your realtor has used some misleading language, simply ask them to change it. If you're able, you need to share the exact age of these items. I showed a home a few months ago that advertised they had fresh, new paint and newer appliances. My buyers were ecstatic to see this home because it photographed really well. The paint may have been fresh at some point, but it wasn't recent, and those appliances, those were probably brand spanking new in 1996. Not only were these appliances actually quite old, but they were filthy. There was like yellow gunk dripping down them, and they clearly had been used. So I'm not sure why the realtor or the seller decided to advertise these as newer. My buyers felt so deceived when they saw how awful the newer appliances were, and they decided not to put any further consideration into the property because at this point they stopped trusting the seller. So be honest when you're sharing the age of the systems throughout your house. Number 4, do not cover up smells with smells because buyers will just smell both. If your home has an odor, pet smells are most common. You want to target the source. And no, I don't mean your pet. Typically, it is upholstered items, so carpets, rugs, your furniture, and curtains. Get them cleaned. It should help. If an odor has seeped into the walls, you can also repaint the walls with a primer like this one, and that should seal out the odor. What you don't want to do is light a highly fragranced candle or spray air freshener all over the air because all your buyers are going to smell are your pets and lilacs. You don't want to assault anyone's senses when they walk into your house, so make sure to get rid of odors. Number 5, do not stay at home when your home is being showed. I feel like this should be a given, but the amount of times this has happened is completely absurd. The only thing more uncomfortable for a buyer than having a seller present while they're touring a home is having a seller present without clothes. Yup, this happened. An elderly man decided to stay at home and hose off his pool deck in what I can only describe as a very, very small Speedo, and that's generous. We are fortunate he at least had that on. My young woman, first-time homebuyer client was so uncomfortable. She immediately passed on the property and wanted to get out of there. Another time, with another set of clients, a homeowner decided to stay and insisted on giving us a tour of his home. This particular homeowner was especially enthused by his sink faucets and proceeded to give us approximately 5-minute presentations on each one. And these were just your run-of-the-mill faucets, nothing fancy. We were all so ready to get out of there, but it was challenging because we didn't want to be rude. Both of these homes easily could have worked for these buyers, but they didn't really get to spend time in the homes because they were so uncomfortable, and they immediately marked them off their list. Stepping outside or waiting in the garage is uncomfortable for buyers too, so make sure that you completely vacate your property. At minimum, drive up the street a little bit and just sit there and watch and wait for them to leave. Number 6, do not start spending money to make improvements to your home without speaking to your realtor or another professional first. If you want to make improvements to your home so that you can get top dollar, that's great. Just make sure you're putting your money towards the right things. Fresh paint, new light fixtures, and new appliances can go a long way, as can sharpening your curb appeal. An example of money not well spent would be upgrading kitchen cabinets to top-of-the-line luxury cabinetry in a $350,000 home. You simply won't get back what you've spent because buyers in this price range are typically not looking for luxury, and it's not going to add as much value as it's actually worth. So if you make improvements like this, make sure it's for you and not for potentially selling your home. Another example would be doing the same thing with appliances. If you buy a $14,000 refrigerator, it's not going to add $14,000 to the price of your home. This is over upgrading and is something you want to avoid. Every dollar counts. Number 7, do not have holiday decor in photos past the holidays. If you list your home in December when all of your Christmas decorations are up, you should retake those photos in January when the decorations come down. Or, if you can swing it, make sure you get the pictures taken before you put up your decorations. Your first impression is almost always online, and you only have a few seconds to make it. If it's March and they're seeing Christmas decorations in your photo, they're going to know that the home's been sitting on the market for a while and may assume something's wrong with it. Even in a slow market, like many places around the country are in right now, buyers still think something might be wrong with the home rather than thinking that, oh, things have just slowed down a little bit. Yes, they can still see the days on market, but they typically won't see that until after they've connected emotionally with your property through the photos. So hopefully when they see that your home has been sitting on the market since December, they've already fallen in love with the photos and they don't mind. It does make a difference. Number 8, do not leave out family photos, personal documents, or valuables. When selling your home, it's best to give the buyers a clean slate so that they can imagine themselves living in your home. You want to depersonalize your home entirely. Oftentimes, family photos make spaces feel like they belong to someone else, and that's because, well, they do. But you really want your buyer to be able to envision themselves and their family in your home. The more neutral, the better. The next part of this is for security reasons. You don't want to leave out bills, medical documents, password books, or anything that might grab a nosy eye. The same goes for valuables and medications. Lock them up. Or better yet, take them with you. I know we'd like to think that everybody's honest, but unfortunately, thieves exist. Number 9, do not overprice your home. Don't do it, folks. It's really easy for sellers to want to overprice their home for 2 reasons. Number 1, your home likely has a lot of sentimental value to you, but unfortunately, that sentimental value does not equate to dollars. And number 2, just a few years ago, homes were flying off the market around 25% over asking price, and sellers went in on that. Unfortunately, they're just a little too late. Now that we're in a buyer's market in many parts across the country, sellers are not wanting to budge. Unfortunately, the longer a home sits on the market, the more likely buyers are to think something is going to be wrong with the home and it's going to cost you in the long run. Time is money in real estate. You really need to be reasonable about the value of your property based on comparable recent sales. I also want to throw out there, if you speak to 3 agents, for example, and 2 of them say that they would recommend listing your home around $450,000, but the third agent says that they can absolutely sell your home at $510,000, you should probably ask for some more data to look at. Don't just take their word for it. Ask for a comparative market analysis. Chances are, Mr. or Miss $510,000 is just blowing smoke to try and get the listing from you. If an agent were selling homes well above market value like that, we all would have heard about them. They'd be the #1 agent in the world. But unfortunately, that's usually not the case, and homeowners that list with the agent that promises them the world and the highest amount are often being deceived. Most homes, especially in this economy, will sell at or maybe even a little bit below market value. And who determines market value? Buyers do. A realtor can suggest a price for you based on the comps, and an appraiser can give you a professional valuation of your home. But at the end of the day, your home is only worth what a buyer is willing to pay for it. So make sure that you're pricing your home reasonably and competitively for the market that you're in. And finally, number 10, do not cut costs on photography. Good realtors will hire professional photographers to capture beautiful images of your home, and if you're selling your home by yourself, you should do the same. When you're interviewing agents to list your home, you'll want to ask if they use a professional photographer and ask to see photos of previous listings. What you don't want is a realtor running through your home taking photos with a cell phone. I don't care how nice the cell phone is, it does not compete with a professional photographer's images. Cell phone photos just do not present well, and when you only have a few seconds to make a first impression, before a buyer either clicks away or continues looking, you want that first impression to count. Here is a really good example of cell phone photos versus professional photographer photos. The cell phone photos were taken by an agent that had this listing before I did, and it sat on the market for 98 days. Once I took over, we got professional photos done, had an awesome marketing plan, and we got them under contract in 2 days. Professional photos make all the difference. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. I'm Alexandra, and I'll see you next time.